Picture this. It's 1985, and Warren Buffett is at the absolute peak of his game. He writes his annual letter to shareholders, but instead of a victory lap, it's a warning. Today, we're going to unpack that very letter to dig into the timeless and honestly pretty counterintuitive lessons he shared about how to really win in business. So, just how good was 1985 for Berkshire Hathaway? Well, it was a 48.2% kind of year. That's the gain in the company's net worth in a single year. Now, that is a truly monumental number. Most CEOs would be throwing a massive party, right? But that's not what Warren Buffett did.
Nope. Instead of taking a victory lap, he immediately told his shareholders, hey, this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, just like Halley's Comet. And the really fascinating part isn't just that he said it, it's why he felt the need to pour cold water on things at the absolute peak of his success. And that's the core of what we're going to explore.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with that Halley's Comet year and unpack Buffett's surprising warning. Then, and this is the really cool part, we're going to dive deep into his biggest failure to understand his greatest successes. And finally, we'll pull it all together into some powerful lessons we can actually use today.
So what was it that made 1985 so special? What made it this unrepeatable Halley's Comet kind of year? Well, it really came down to a few huge company-defining acquisitions that all came together to create this absolutely extraordinary result.
Okay, so everything's going great. The company is on fire. Why on earth would you put out a big warning? Well, Buffett, always playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, was already looking way down the road. And he saw two major roadblocks that made repeating this kind of success basically impossible.
And here they are. It really boiled down to two things. First, the market itself had changed. The easy pickings were gone. There just weren't many undervalued companies left to buy. And second, and maybe even more important, was Berkshire's own size. The company had gotten so big, the law of large numbers was just kicking in. I mean, it's just way harder to get a huge percentage gain when you're starting from a massive base.
And this just illustrates that first point perfectly in his own words. Just a decade earlier, in '74, the market was like a candy store for a guy like Buffett. The only question was which bargain to pick. But by 1985, the candy store was closed. The bargains were gone. As he saw it, the easy money had already been made.
All right, now we get to what I think is the most powerful part of this whole letter. See, to really get Buffett's philosophy on what makes a great business, we first have to understand his 21-year struggle with a terrible one, the original Berkshire Hathaway textile mill. Buffett's partner, the legendary Charlie Munger, has this fantastic quote. He loves studying mistakes, and the story of the textile mill is basically Buffett serving up his own biggest mistake on a platter for all of us to learn from. He's showing us exactly where not to go. I mean, just look at this timeline. He buys the business in 1964. By 67, he's already smart enough to start using its cash to pivot into a much better industry, insurance. But he kept that textile mill chugging along, pouring more and more money into it for years, until finally, after 21 years, he shut it down. Talk about a long and painful lesson.
So, what was the problem? What made the textile business so awful? It was what you call a commodity business trap. Basically, in an industry like that, you can spend a fortune on new machines to make your stuff cheaper. But guess what? So does everybody else. And the competition is so brutal that all those savings just get passed on to the customer in lower prices. Nobody ever makes any real money.
Buffett has this absolutely brilliant analogy for it. He calls it the tiptoes at a parade problem. Imagine you're at a parade. If you stand on your tiptoes, you get a better view, right? But when everyone stands on their tiptoes, nobody's view actually improves, and now everybody's legs are just tired. That was the textile industry in a nutshell, a ton of effort for zero collective gain.
And this right here, this is the profound, hard-won lesson he learned after those 2 decades. The business you're in, the boat you choose to get into, is so much more important than how hard you row. If the industry's economics are fundamentally broken, all the brilliant management in the world isn't going to save you. So, after that masterclass in what a terrible business looks like, Buffett pivots to show us the flip side. What does a great business look like? Well, for him, it all comes down to a powerful idea he calls economic goodwill. This slide really shows the magic. I mean, just look at these numbers. To generate an extra $64 million in earnings, Buffett's best businesses, his group of 3, only needed to invest about $40 million in new capital. Now, the average American business, it would have needed to plow in over $300 million to get that same result. That's a huge difference.
And that is the secret sauce. A truly great business can grow its earnings like crazy without needing you to pour tons of money back into it all the time. This is what Buffett means by economic goodwill. It's the hidden value that comes from a brand, a reputation, a special market position. It's an engine that produces cash instead of constantly eating it.
All right, let's pull all of this amazing wisdom together into something we can actually use. In the letter, Buffett literally lays out his shopping list for buying a business, and it's basically a timeless checklist for any investor.
And here it is. He wants big businesses with a long track record of making money. He wants good returns without a bunch of debt. He's not looking to install his own team, so management has to be in place. He only wants businesses he can actually understand. And finally, he's not going to play games. He needs a price. It's so beautifully simple and rational. It just cuts through all the noise.
But even if you have the perfect, rational checklist, there's one final trap we all have to avoid: herd mentality. And Buffett shares this classic story from his mentor, Ben Graham, to show just how dangerous it is. It starts with an oil prospector in heaven who wants to clear out some of the crowd, so he starts a rumor. And here's the punchline. After he sees all the other oil men stampeding out of heaven to get to hell, based on his own fake rumor, the prospector pauses and then follows them. He says, there might be some truth to that rumor after all. It's just such a powerful reminder of how easy it is to get swept up in groupthink, even when you're the one who started it. So when you really boil it all down, the wisdom from that 1985 letter comes down to these core principles. Choose your boat carefully. Find businesses that spit out cash, not consume it. Study mistakes, yours and, even better, others. Always be on guard against the pull of the crowd. And finally, bet on rational managers who are focused on the long haul. And that really leaves us with one final powerful question to ask ourselves, taken right from Buffett's biggest lesson. In our own careers, in our own investments, are we spending all our energy just patching leaks in a bad boat, or are we using that energy to find a much better vessel altogether?